Assalamu alaikum everybody, and a very warm welcome to episode 29 of the Arabic with Sam podcast. I hope it is 29, actually. I'm sure I remember on Thursday I put out episode 28. That sounds about right, because the one before was when we had Mohammed on the podcast. But anyway, this is episode, I think, 29. So, very warm welcome back to the podcast. Those of you guys on YouTube, what's up? Those of you who are on YouTube will notice that I've, not so subtly, got a bit of a product placement right in front of me. Not a product from another company. We're not at a size yet that other companies are interested in sponsoring this podcast, unfortunately. But one of my very own products. You can see how beautiful these workbooks are that go with the Arabic in 60 Steps program. You can see how chunky they are. They're chunky, they're nicely bound, they've got nice covers on the front and back, nice colour covers, inside packed with appropriately ordered vocab lists, appropriately ordered exercises, and each of the 60 steps in the program are deliberately ordered, one, to formulate a spiral curriculum, and to be very, very, accumulative is the word. I've written the program specifically to be very accumulative. The lessons follow on very nicely from one another. Don't believe me? Ask any of the students, inshallah. I'm very confident in it. So anyways, what we're going to talk about in this episode of the podcast is my experience in Palestine. A lot of students have asked me about studying Arabic abroad, and I don't have any notes in front of me or anything at all. I really just kind of wanted to sit down and freestyle it a little bit with you guys, and tell you about my experience in Palestine, and just kind of give you an account of what it was like for me. But out of it, I'd like you guys to learn some Palestinian Ammiya. That'd be something quite cool for us to do in this episode, just to be aware of it. I know most people who listen to my podcast are not people interested in learning Ammiya. We are strictly standard Arabic Puritans here at the Arabic with Sam media stuff, but it'll still be good. It'll still be good to talk to you guys about that. I'd also like you guys to be aware of some institutes in Palestine as well for you to go, and also just to be equipped with some tips to make the experience go more smoothly for you, inshallah. Because I think there's a lot of assumptions about if you go to an Arabic-speaking country for a few months, you can become fluent or whatever. I remember when I learned Spanish. It is pretty much the case with Spanish that you could go to Spain, immerse yourself completely for a few months and come back pretty fluent. Like that pretty much is the case. But with Arabic, it's just not. That's just not the case. And, there's some assumptions. I think a lot of times students don't really think through how exactly it's going to pan out. A lot of the time students don't really think about how it's going to go down once they arrive. So if we start with my experience a little bit. So I got a flight from Luton. When you fly from Luton, you always fly from, when you go, you fly from Luton to Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. It's always best to do it that way. It's best to enter via Tel Aviv and leave via Jordan. That's always the best way to do it. So for some reason, the checks are a lot more strict. Where if you arrive through Jordan and try to enter Palestine through one of the border crossings, and then you try to leave through Tel Aviv, it's always a lot stricter that way. In our experience, it was always much easier and much more smooth when you would arrive in Tel Aviv, and then you would leave via Jordan. That's what we did each time. And but there are a number of different students who tried in different ways, and unanimously the best experience is when you arrived in Tel Aviv. So we flew from Luton to Tel Aviv, and then the university, obviously I went to Jami'at al-Najah, Al-Najah University, which is in Nablus, and the university organised transport for us. It's always best, when you get taxis around the occupied territory, when you get transport around Israel and around Palestine, whatever names you want to call them, it's always best to get taxis with Israeli plates. You'll notice on the taxis there will be Palestinian number plates and there are Israeli number plates. Israeli number plates can just go wherever they want. There's no checks whatsoever, they just go wherever they want. But Palestinian plates will be much harder to get through checkpoints and stuff like that. So so get taxis that have Palestinian plates and you'll just be able to sail through the checkpoints and stuff like that. So we arrived and they put us in some temporary accommodation. They have like staff accommodation, for the university staff. And we were put in there for a couple of weeks. The main thing I remember is just having one key between like 8 of us. That was the main thing I remember about it. But I think something you will be surprised about, a lot of you, especially people, those of you guys from Canada and the US. I have a feeling that the media coverage of Palestine over there, especially, portrays Palestine as a lot more undeveloped as what it actually is. You'll be surprised that there is beautiful architecture. There is beautiful architecture there. Like in Palestine, if you go onto Facebook and you search Jami'at al-Najah, the sort of building that the university is, it's like this incredible, like beautiful sort of sand color buildings, and they look brand new. Like they're like pristine builds. And the place that we stayed in, these flats that we stayed in, were really nice as well. Like there is beautiful architecture, and something else which is really surprising to a lot of people, was very surprising to me, is that you can drink the water there. You can drink the tap water. And even a lot of the mosques just have taps outside for people just to drink from. Like there's just clean drinking water. That's not the case for a lot of European countries. There are EU countries that it's not the case you can drink the tap water. Being a middle-class white person, of course, I've been on lots of Thompson Cook holidays to various Canary Islands and stuff like that, and you can't drink the water there. But in Palestine, you can drink the tap water. It's clean enough for you to drink. So, so that was really surprising. Do you know what I mean? Like I know, due to the media or whatever poor education we have, we kind of portray a sort of backwards idea about places that are war-torn, but that's not really. It's always more complicated than that. There's always a different balance to what you're expecting. So so we started university. We started university a couple of weeks later. We started obviously at Jami'at al-Najah. Al-Najah does accept non-university students. They do summer programs. They do summer programs where you can go and you can study, and also if you wanted to go there as like a 1-year student, do a master's or something, you can get a whole 1-year visa, and you can just stay there and do your master's there. You can do that. And also a good thing as well is if you meet someone there who you want to marry, it's very easy to bring them to another country, because Israel want as many people to leave Palestine as possible. So but it's very hard for you to stay. I did hear about someone who stayed. I heard about a Dutch woman who married a Palestinian, and she managed to just stay there. I don't know what her situation was, but that's very, very rare. But that's very rare. The university experience was awesome. We had Arabic literature classes. We had Palestinian dialects classes, and there's a huge masjid actually on campus. There's a huge masjid there. It's really cool. That's actually on the campus, and it is very conservative. Like Nablus as a city is very conservative. Like if you're on one of the campuses and you're like sitting with a girl chatting, people will come over to you and they'll like advise you and stuff. Do you know what I mean? If you're a Muslim, do you know what I mean? If you're a non-Muslim, it's not the case. Like most of the people who are on my course, of the 10 of us who went to Palestine, I think only 3 of us were Muslims. There was me and another brother, may Allah bless him, and another sister as well, may Allah bless her. But like if you're obviously Muslim, or people know you to be a Muslim, and you're sat talking to a girl like in the canteen or whatever, people will look at you really suspiciously. Like at the very least, they might even just come over and just give you a little nasiha about free mixing and stuff. It's pretty unique like that. Like other cities aren't like that in Palestine though. Other cities aren't like that. Like if you go to Ramallah, it's not like that at all. Ramallah is actually really, really liberal. So other cities aren't like that, but Nablus is like that. You can't even buy alcohol in Nablus. There are people who do it like undercover and who bring it in from other places and stuff, but that does exist. But there are no like public shops. Like whenever, like if anyone tries to open like a public shop for if anyone opens like a public shop or whatever for to sell wine or anything, like it will just get vandalized. Like I think a few people tried it, just got vandalized. There isn't really government in Palestine, so it's not really like a government enforced like Sharia state kind of deal. It's just the people are very conservative. That's more what the situation is. I'm just going to check my microphone, by the way, make sure I am actually still recording, because a couple of times I've had very unfortunate experiences where I've been recording an episode and then I've realised halfway through that I've been talking to myself. So anyway, so another thing about Nablus is if you are staying in Nablus, you can like there is the Samaritan village where people can go and drink. They do have bars and stuff in the Samaritan village. Yeah, and it's literally just a very short taxi ride out to the Samaritan village from Palestinian from Nablus, which is just good for people to be aware. Who people who are non-Muslims, people who obviously for me, obviously I don't want people to drink alcohol, obviously as an observant Muslim, but like what's more important to me is that if people go to Palestine to learn Arabic, that you stay, and if that's going to be the reason that makes you not stay, then if that's something if that's a little home comfort for you or whatever, but but best thing to do really is when you're in Palestine is to observe what Palestinians do. So so that's kind of a bit about what the university was like. Our accommodation. So getting accommodation is really informal out there. Like here in the UK, we have websites like what is it? Zoopla here in the UK, and Rightmove and stuff, where you can rent properties. You go on a website and stuff. They don't have anything like that in Palestine. Just through like your own personal network, you might find someone who has a flat to rent, and then your rent will be paid in cash every month. And your rent will be paid in cash. And then all of your utilities will be included in that as well. The only thing you might have to do is a lot of the stoves and stuff out there are done with gas. A lot of people have gas cookers and stuff out there. So when your gas runs out, you'll have a number to call, and you'll just call them and you'll just say your address, and they'll just come and bring you another one. I don't know if they charge that to the landlords, and then the landlords just charge it to you in your rent. But the rent is cheap. I'm trying to remember what we paid. Because I remember I did my entire year in Palestine, including flights, for about £2,000 or maybe £3,000. Like an entire year. Do you know what I mean? So like rent is not expensive and food is not expensive either. So that's kind of what the accommodation's like. You will not be able to have mixed accommodation. Like if you're a group of guys, you have friends that are girls and stuff, and you want to go out, and you would not be able to do that in Palestine. I don't know, that not in Nablus anyway, or at least it would be very hard. I have known of students going to Egypt and doing it. Although in Palestine, generally women are fine not chaperoned in Palestine. I remember even seeing like individual women going for runs in the morning and stuff, or going for runs at night and stuff. Like it's that isn't that doesn't seem to be a big issue in Palestine. Even in Nablus, like there was just no crime. Like I just don't remember any theft. I don't remember anything like that. It was really beautiful, like when I think about it, I usually don't sort of sit and think about my time in Palestine, but when I do, it was really beautiful. So so that's kind of how the accommodation's done. That's how the education's done. There are a number of different there are other universities in Palestine, and there are definitely institutes in Bethlehem. There's definitely an institute in Ramallah, definitely institutes in Jerusalem. Oh yeah, that's another thing. So when you arrive, a little hack is if you're going to Palestine, when you arrive in Tel Aviv, tell them you're staying in Shechem. Don't tell them Nablus. Tell them Shechem. Shechem is the Jewish Israeli Hebrew word. Is the Hebrew word for Nablus. Nablus is a place that's in the Bible, or in the Old Testament rather, and the Israelis know about it and they call it Shechem. That's what they know it as, and it would just placate them. The guards. It will placate them a little bit. You say you're going to Shechem, and I don't know, It's a little bit of sort of political submission to them, I suppose, but it's a small price to pay for them to let you through. Do you know what I mean? So that's a little hack. If you can, we didn't manage to, but if you can, befriend someone who speaks Hebrew when you're traveling and stuff and going through checkpoints. That'll help you a lot too. But anyway, when you arrive, they'll usually have a meeting with you when you arrive. If you're from the UK and if you want to even step foot in Palestine, you'll need to have a meeting. And there'll be like a few prison guards. They'll have a few guards in there. I call them prison guards. They're just guards. Do you know what I mean? Or soldiers, and they'll have a meeting with you. They'll have your passport. They'll have your Facebook account up. They'll have anything you've ever said on social media up, and they'll do like an assessment of you. They'll ask you why you're there, what you're doing, how long you want to be there. And for me, like I didn't have any of my content out at that time, right? Like this was before I did any Sam of Somalia, before I did any Arabic with Sam, anything like that. And yeah, and basically they asked me why I was there, and I was like, yeah, I want to go to Nablus. I didn't know about the Shrem thing at the time. I'm here with a university, like it's official. I've got paperwork here saying I'm with a university. It's an official visit. I need to be here for a whole year because I'm studying. And they were like, the man was like, I'll give you 1 month. And I remember saying, no, I don't think you understand. I need to be here for a year because a year, I'm here at the university for a year. And he was like, I'll give you 1 month. So I had 1 month on my little visa, and when you get this little bit of paper, they give you this little bit of like blue and white paper, and that's your visa for the 1 month. And with that, you can travel between Israel and Palestine. You can just travel freely between the two, as long as you have that. Have that and your passport, and then you're fine. Yeah, you can just travel between the two. Yeah, and that's fine. And alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity to pray in Al-Aqsa a few times. Yeah, there were a few times where I managed to go. I managed to go 3 times, I think, in just that 1 month. And I, stayed at a hotel there, prayed tahajjud there, and then prayed Jum'ah there as well. And yeah, I had an experience there where I nearly died. Usually on Fridays, there's often like marches or clashes and stuff on Fridays. And I remember I was there once and I prayed Jum'ah and I came out. And I just saw people running, like groups of shabab, groups of like young lads running, and there was like a whole kind of line of Israeli soldiers with their shields and their batons and stuff, and you suddenly hear like an eruption of 400-500 people shouting "Biruh bidem naftika ya Aqsa." That's like the chant, Biruh bidem naftika ya Aqsa. And it means like Biruh bidem, with the soul and with the blood, naftika ya Aqsa. We will defend you, O Aqsa, as in Al-Aqsa Mosque. And I'd never even heard tear gas shells be shot on the news. Like on the news, I'd never even heard what that sounds like. But it is like a cannon going off. Like they fire shells of tear gas. Yes, it's really loud, and like it's a huge like boom, and you don't know if, and like obviously I didn't know if it was an explosion or if we'd been shot at or whatever, until like shells of tear gas started to kind of land around me. Like the thing that's most poignant, I remember most strongly in my mind, is elderly people running away. Like watching elderly people and children run away is something that is really, don't know, it conjures up a real defensiveness, a real like protective nature in you. I don't know if it's probably the case for both men and women, but for me, I just felt a real sense of like care over them. But anyway, like, so people ran and I ran as well, and I ran back to my hotel. Because what could you do? Do you know what I mean? I thought I might die. I went back to my hotel and I was with a friend of mine, Mondour, and I managed to meet him later. I just messaged him and said, meet me back at the hotel. And like both of our clothes were covered in tear gas and stuff, so we just needed to have a shower and wash our clothes and stuff. And when we went back that evening to pray Maghrib, there was like we were praying the janazah of people who had been killed that day. Like it's a harrowing experience to see, like when you pray a janazah or when you bury a Muslim, obviously like they're shrouded in white cloth. That's like part of the burial ritual for Muslims. And I never in my life expected to see such small bodies shrouded in cloth, like children. There must have been children 3-4 years old whose bodies were shrouded in cloth. Whenever you expect to see that or see a funeral, you always expect it to be like an adult's body. But seeing a child's body shrouded in cloth was, that was grim. I don't ever want to see anything like that again. So, so during that time, when you have your visa, you can travel pretty freely between Israel and Palestine. But in my experience, at the university that I was at, they said, okay, don't worry that it's 1 month. We'll sort it out for you. We'll get your West Bank only visa sorted out for you. You can just stay here for the year, right? Because you can get like a 12-month visa just for the West Bank. You can do that. And but basically they didn't sort it out. and I got an angry email from my university in London saying, "You've overstayed your visa. You might go to prison. Leave now." So basically, I did a border run. Loads of people in Palestine do a border run. Everyone who's been to Palestine knows what it means. You go to Jordan very quickly, then you come back. And on entry back into Palestine, you hope that they'll give you another visa. A lot of people fail, and they end up leaving loads of their stuff in Palestine. There's loads of spoils. Whenever you go to flats that foreigners stay in, there's often, like, you know, stuff left behind from people who tried to do border runs and didn't make it back. That's really dramatic. I don't mean they didn't make it back as in they died. I mean they didn't make it back as in they didn't get granted entry. Yeah, so I did that. Went to Jordan, went to go and see some of my friends, because at SOAS, where I went, my university, some of the students went to Jordan, some of the students went to Palestine. We just went to go and visit some of the people in Jordan. Yeah, and then came back, and I was given a 3-month visa. And then that gave me enough time to get my 1-year visa. Yeah, so that was really cool. Yeah, and then obviously managed to see out my studies and stuff. And at the leaving ceremony, my graduation ceremony, I did a recitation of the Quran at our graduation ceremony, and my friend Monzor did a reading of a poetry called Al-Lughat al-Arabiya or something. There's a poet, Ibrahim Hafiz, something like that, Hafiz Ibrahim, very famous, I think, Egyptian poet who has a poem about the Arabic language, and he did a recitation of that, and it was beautiful. But yeah, I did a Quran recitation. Something from Surah Al-Hujurat was what I recited. Yeah, and then that kind of, yeah, and then when we left, you know, as we always did, we left via Amman in Jordan, and came home, and haven't been back to Palestine since. So that's the experience, right? That's, you know, I don't really know what to say. Obviously, if you have questions and stuff, you can ask me, either in the comments, or if you're on the podcast. It's not really convenient to go to whatever platform you like. Those of you guys who are on the podcast, go over to Instagram and DM me if you want. Go to Facebook and DM me if you want, or private message me, whatever you call it, or just put comments, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Get in touch with me somehow if you have anything to ask. When I was in Palestine, I realised that there weren't really that good resources. I'm gonna drink some of my coffee. Oh, that's cold. I made that coffee at the beginning thinking, I'll just sip that throughout the podcast, but we've been doing the podcast for over 20 minutes now, and my coffee's cold. I didn't order a frappuccino. So anyway, when I was in Palestine, I realised that there just wasn't that good stuff for Palestinian dialect. And I also realised how powerful writing is when you're doing it in the moment, like when the experiences are fresh. And I just started journaling my experience learning Palestinian Ammiya. And I kind of combined it with other notes from my university notes on the Palestinian dialects and stuff like that. And I compiled like a 30-chapter book. And I never published it. I never really finished doing the editing and stuff like that. And I would like to one day. It would be kind of just a tribute to my time in Palestine. Yeah, so that is something that maybe will surface sometime in the future, that book. But it's not the priority right now. The priority right now is making the Arabic in 60 Steps program the most banging course known to planet Earth, and delivering it brilliantly to all the students, getting the students' results. Yeah, so that's what that's for, inshallah. And then also, just to come to the end of the podcast, I'll remind you guys that Patreon has opened. Patreon is a really cool opportunity for you guys to get a bit closer to the work that I do. You get rewards, which is really cool too. You get to vote on ideas for up-and-coming episodes of the podcast, up-and-coming stuff that I do on YouTube, free courses and stuff like that. You also get some people who sponsor at certain levels get access to merchandise. I'm coming out with some Arabic related merchandise, so like, you know, t-shirts, mugs, bookmarks, pop sockets, stickers, badges, bookmarks, notebooks, you know, hoodies, hats, all kinds of stuff like that. Just all just around having a love for the Arabic language. You know, so students, so it's an opportunity for patrons to get early access to merchandise and big discounts on merchandise, and some people even get merchandise for free posted to them every month, depending on what level they support the podcast and the stuff at. Yeah, so Patreon's really cool. And obviously we have targets on there as well. Like once we get to $150 a month, I'm going to buy a Blue Yeti mic. Yeah, because obviously, like, I'm recording this podcast on a really, really cheap little lapel mic, and there have been issues before with like crackling and stuff, and I just really like to be able to create a really good quality podcast for you guys, and then with that, obviously I have the opportunity to record things like an audiobook. Do you know what I mean? We could do like an Arabic audio book and stuff if I have better equipment as well. So from it, even if you're a person who contributes $1 a month, $2 a month, $10 a month, $100 a month, or whatever, right? Whatever's easy for you, then you are the people who are behind me being able to do more stuff for free. Do you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like I've got a little boy and a wife, and I have another baby on the way, and I need to do things that can put food on the table. And if we can make Arabic resources for free for the world, a way for me to put food on the table, then I'll do it. Do you know what I mean? I'll be able to do it much better. So Patreon's really cool. So go over to the Patreon website. There is a little story about socks on there as well, which is interesting and I think should intrigue you guys. So go over and read about socks. How are socks relevant to me being an Arabic teacher? Find out. Patreon.com/Arabic with Sam. So that's everything. That's everything for this episode of the podcast. Thank you very much for staying with me all the way to the end of this show. This is a longer one. This is almost half an hour long, but it's okay as long as you guys have enjoyed it. And I think that it's been it should have been insightful for you guys, inshallah. Yeah, we didn't really get a chance to talk about actually making the most of being in an Arabic country, because a lot of the time when people go to an Arab country, people don't actually make the most of it. Like I know a lot of people who go to study Arabic in Egypt, and it transpires that most of what they did was sat in their room not knowing where to go to start practicing Arabic with people. But I have a lot of advice for that, for making the most of your time abroad, because it's not as obvious as just turning up and being there. You do need to have a strategy and take active steps. So maybe that'll be next week's episode. Let me know if you want that to be next week's episode. DM me on Instagram, go to my Facebook and stuff. And can you please just follow and like those pages as well, please? I'd like to just build my audience and stuff over there too. So if there's no skin off your nose, then go over and follow me on Instagram, please, and like my Facebook page too. That would mean the world to me. So let's end it there, guys. Thanks very much for being part of it. Thanks very much for listening. See you guys next week in episode 30. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.